According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, in 1978 there were 307,276 inmates in state and federal prisons. By the end of 2012, the number had nearly doubled. While the number of people sent to prison in recent years has shown a slight decline, two-thirds of released prisoners are reincarcerated within 3 years after their release. So we've shown some improvement in deterring people from landing that trip to prison in the first place. We've been unsuccessful in our attempt to keep those who have previously been incarcerated from going back. The problems with the prison system are too many to address in the amount of time allotted, but a few are quite obvious and can be understood with the application of logic alone. There's no set goal for people in prison other than punishments. They're put in there without a plan. It's hardly been successful as a short-term solution. Consider this example. If you don't have children, imagine that you're babysitting and will call the kid Little Bobby. Little Bobby steals $1, so you spank his hand, you tell him it's wrong, and let him know that he can't do that. Then you send him alone to his room for a while, giving him timeout for a few hours. In there he sits and he thinks, and maybe he reads or whatever you allow him to do in the amount of time he's allotted. What's different about Little Bobby when he comes out? Aside from the fact that he might be sad or emotionally distraught or otherwise have a new appreciation for personal freedoms, he knows that what he did got him into trouble, but why? Why is it not permissible? Why is it not okay aside from the fact that you get into trouble if you do it? What made him do it? What are the alternatives or resolutions or some possible coping mechanisms that can help Bobby to not try to fulfill this urge whenever he gets it? Is there a serious underlying cause? Shouldn't you teach him to understand? Because you know that if he knew better, he'd do better. You might even know because of the time that you previously spent with him that he's exhibited this type of behavior before. And little Bobby has to live with you when he gets out. Whether or not he gets better, he'll be around. People sentenced to jail aren't in there forever. They will be around. They'll be at the supermarkets. They'll be at the playground, at the car wash, at the elementary school plays. And in most instances, prisoners are handled the same way little Bobby was. We snatch them off the streets for a while without rehabilitating them. Their release date arrives, and when they get out, they're the same people they were when they went in. There are no second chances after prison, so we incarcerate these people and like to say that they're paying their debt to society, but once they get out, they continue to pay. If you ever contact an apartment complex to lease an apartment and ask them what their requirements are, they'll let you know that it's 1 year rental, something like it's 1 year rental history, 6 months current employment, 3 times the rent, and no felony convictions. If you've ever completed an employment application, you'll see that halfway down the page it asks if you've ever been convicted of a felony. If people actually had faith in prisons to rehabilitate and those released were considered to have paid their debt to society by serving the duration of their term, why would it matter? It's simple. It matters because people know that prisons do not rehabilitate. They just remove people from society for a while. That's it. So once they're denied housing or denied that job, what then are they left to do? Live on the streets? Starve? What would you suggest? One article in the Herald Tribune tells a story of a woman released from prison who was fortunate enough to find employment but has to sleep in the car with a friend because people refuse to lease to her. Imagine that you're the one reading the application and happen to stumble upon that felony conviction listed. Will you hire them? If the choice was yours, would you say yes to having a convicted felon as your neighbor? Would you discriminate? For most of you, if you're honest, you'd probably say yes, if nothing for concern of your own well-being. How would you feel, though, if you weren't given a chance? Put yourself in their shoes. You'd feel hopeless. They get desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. Some of them have children that need to be provided for, and they're faced with a dilemma. So you take these criminals from a partially criminal environment, the free world, with mostly law-abiding citizens. Then you place them in a fully criminal environment where they cohabitate with other criminals. They mix larcenists, murderers, drug dealers with rapists and pedophiles, and when they get there they find that prisoners are committing the same crimes in prison that they were locked up for. Some, with the help of the guards, should be keeping the order. People are murdered and raped as well as they sell and use drugs in prison, among many other crimes. You lock someone up for a certain behavior and they go to prison and continue that same behavior. Then you expect something different when they get out. That's just stupid. If prison guards can be unethical and deterred so easily, how much more so for the people who actually create the legislation for the prisons? If you know someone who's been incarcerated, just ask them what goes on inside. People have to understand the difference between punishment and rehabilitation. Would punishment work for you? Once people are old and coherent enough to understand right from wrong, we'd have to apply a more advanced method of rehabilitating them. While prisoners might be out of sight and out of mind temporarily, this is something that will affect us all. varying from tax dollars spent to someone breaking your house to steal. We all have to live in this world together.